Hey YouTube, what's up? Dr. T here from St. Petersburg, Florida. So here we will look at the final segment of my three-part series featuring an interview with a SPACEX engineer who happened to be the very first intern way back when it all began.
As I can see.
In 10 years?
Yeah, maybe 10,
okay,
15 years.
But it's conceivable.
I mean, I think if Elon and SpaceX, put that as a plan, for sure they'll get
Well, that is his stated objective.
Yeah.
So as far as I know.
Yeah,
He
absolutely.
seems to be a pretty determined guy.
And they'll get there. Yeah, there's definitely a concerted effort to get there.
So that makes this a pretty remarkable decade. Then I mean, that's a major milestone in humanity.
Oh yeah, I mean, seeing that happen will be incredible. I think like seeing more space stations being built up. There's like the Bigelow's inflatable space module. That's
Are these planned for deployment?
Yeah, I mean, the Dragon spacecraft has taken up an inflatable section as a test article for Bigelow's inflatable.
Interesting.
Space
and what would
station.
happen in an inflatable space station? Like, what would be the objective of that kind of space structure?
And I think he's talking about turning it into a hotel.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
For real?
Yeah, but I mean, you could also just use it as an extension of the space station and do more science and experiments in there.
Okay, so it's capable of housing people and conducting research from it?
Yeah, that's what it's designed for.
Wow.
So that'll be really cool to see that happen and more Earth observing satellites get up there as the cost of access to space goes down. So there's so much happening.
That's
It's really awesome.
And then looking 20, 30 years out, what's the next phase? You know, let's say we do succeed at getting in 15 years, say we land 1 or 2 people on Mars. What's the next phase after that?
Get 1 million people.
So the colonization begins?
I think so, yeah.
That does seem to be the stated objective. But that doesn't excite you as much as just getting there and seeing it.
Well, I mean, I think the part that excites me is going there and exploring it. Well, not necessarily with 1 million humans going there, but robots going there and satellites going there and sending back better pictures and videos,
the deeper research,
and sending robots there and starting to build up a base there. I mean, that's awesome, exciting stuff. But
that's amazing. So what's the biggest obstacle to doing that? What's the hardest part?
I mean, I think it's just so far away.
Distance
and
if it were just closer,
communicating. I mean, I think it takes I can't remember now. What's it, like 16 minutes for a signal to get from here to there?
So that's the closest planet.
Yeah, so that's a bit of a challenge. To me, the moon is exciting.
Okay, well, tell me about the moon. You had opened my eyes to a lot of activity that may be picking up on the moon. So what's more exciting about the moon, first of all, and what can you see happening in the next 10, 15 years in terms of moon exploration?
Well, I guess to me, the thing that's exciting about the moon is it's right there and you can see it, as opposed to
So it
Mars,
captures your imagination more?
I think so. I think it's cool to be able to look up there and say, oh, there's a robot up there, or there's people up there, or they're playing Super Bowl up there or something. I don't know.
It's definitely less abstract.
Yeah. So I understand going to Mars because it's a planet that you could terraform and on, as opposed to the moon, which doesn't have the gravity to sustain building up an atmosphere there.
So
a lot of
Mars
reasons why
to
Mars makes more sense than the moon, but
could we put people permanently on the moon?
I think so.
I mean, in the same way we have a space station.
Yeah, I think you just build a structure on the moon. And
interesting. Have you heard of plans or intentions to do this?
A little bit.
Okay. What would be the what would we get out of that? What would be the benefit of having a station permanently manned on the moon?
Other than being really cool.
That's so cool.
I mean, I think if you're on the moon and you have like a continuous line of sight to Earth, that would be good for doing Earth observation. And,
It also seems like whenever we do something, we have these unexpected discoveries. Like the space pen, right? The zero gravity space pen.
Better than the pencil.
But seriously though, there are a lot of discoveries we come up with through space exploration that weren't even anticipated, that weren't objectives.
Yeah, I mean that's to me maybe one of the most exciting things about going to space and doing stuff is everything you learn from doing experiments in zero gravity, or not zero gravity, but simulated zero gravity.
Right. So the last time that a person went to the moon, the U.S. was leading in a technological capability, but technology has changed a lot around the world, and certainly other countries are close, if not already totally capable of this. Do you see sort of a national competition for moon territory? I mean, is there interest from competing national interests for moon exploration?
I don't know if there is, but I imagine there would be, right? Like,
right.
I think China is going to go to the moon, and
I would assume so. I mean, because it's also a national status symbol.
Sure.
I mean, even back, decades ago, it was a real U.S.-Russia thing. It actually was part of the Cold War. The U.S. getting there before Russia, and that was a bit of a,
Yeah, I think if another country went and said, "Hey, we're going to go and own the moon now," and the U.S. would be like, "Well, our flag is there. We got there first." But you haven't done anything in 40 years, and they could just go there and.
So it becomes a territory claim. Do you see competition for actual ownership of parts or all of the moon? I guess you go for the whole thing if you could, right? If you're willing to invest in what it would take to stake that claim. I could see China or Russia or the US doing that out of national...
Make it like the next continent, right?
Can you imagine more space stations or more non-planetary inhabited structures? Or is there just not a need for it? Or is it hard to justify the cost?
No, I can imagine, and like I said, I think it's already happening, right? I think that, the Bigelow aerospace module that's already been designed, and I think they're already talking about a replacement for the International Space Station.
Oh, are they? I didn't realize. Okay. So with virtual reality and augmented reality gaining speed and gaining capabilities, how do you see that affecting space travel? You recently took a position at DACRI, which is one of the leading augmented reality companies.
Yeah.
So you have a good understanding of the space. How does VR, AR change the space exploration game?
I think it enhances it. I think it's an awesome complementary technology, right? I can see augmented reality headsets for on visors for astronaut spacesuits.
Okay, so you see the astronauts.
Yeah, I see the astronauts using it, or maybe in the space station, or in the Dragon capsule, or any capsule. Basically, just would enable freeing up the astronauts' hands, right, so that they can get the information that they need without having to look at a phone or a piece of paper or something. If you could just project all the information that you need without having to look somewhere else for it, I think that just minimizes your opportunity for error and minimizes the mistakes that could happen. I see
makes data more available.
It makes data more available, makes it more efficient and quicker and easier to have the information that you need, and also there's a ton of applications, right? Just imagine I'm looking at something and you're trying to explain to me, oh, look at the knob that's fifth from the left, and I have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Instead, if I could, through my headset, if it could project something and you see that, and then you highlight, the exact knob in a red color, and then I see, oh, that's the one, and then I go and turn it. I mean, it's just
right. In fact, I recently interviewed Daniel Liu from NASA, who's doing developing technology using these headsets for similar things. Can you envision a day where the virtual reality is so good that it reduces, even eliminates in some ways, but reduces the need for humans to go into space? Meaning Mars rovers will 3D model the surface, and you can have very visceral, real experiences in a VR headset on Earth as if you were on Mars. I mean, could you see this actually affecting the need to put people in places like that, or the space station?
To some degree. I mean, if you can send a robot there instead of sending a human.
So a robot avatar.
Yeah.
So you would control that, but see as if you were there.
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly see that. I'm sure there's nothing really that can replace actually having a human there.
Although you can imagine for a space station, where you could build the space station to react to virtual triggers, so you can reach up and hit a switch, and that switch would in the space station happen.
Oh yeah.
But on Mars, it's not as controllable as a space station.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's exciting. There's so much happening.
It's just hard to predict.
I can't wait to
So much is
to see
happening
what
so
happens,
fast.
yeah.
What's amazing about it is how close these forecasts are. You know, we grew up with science fiction called Space 1999 and 2001 Space Odyssey. And that was how long ago? And like that didn't even come close to happening.
Yeah.
But now we're talking about 10, 15, 20, 30 years.
Oh yeah.
Stuff that we had sort of felt like we were giving up on in a way. It's like,
oh, I mean, the rate is just increasing exponentially. I mean, I think SpaceX is launching the third rocket in 9 days.
okay.
Like in a couple days' time, there's going to be 3 rockets in 9 days.
Oh, I didn't know a third one was scheduled.
Yeah.
They did 2 in 48
Yeah,
hours.
which is like
Perfectly successful.
just insane how rapid that is. I mean, I remember talking about Elon said he wants to launch once a week, and everyone was kind of like, no ways.
Yeah.
Because it was.
These are full reusable, you know, the rocket thrusters land vertically, perfectly.
Yep.
I mean, very complex operations.
Oh yeah.
Incredible. Well, I really appreciate your sharing your perspective. I just love this stuff. And you've had an insight that few have had, so it's great to hear what that experience was like.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that first installment of Personal Interest series. From my perspective, the interviewer was absolute crap. I could have done a much better job myself. He interrupted the interviewee too many times, sensationalized elements just to kind of score points or whatever. Didn't give him the opportunity to give a more detailed background discussion of the engineering aspects of what they were doing. I think he was completely useless as an interviewer. But generally speaking, I found it was nice to kind of listen to this guy. And just make comments about anything you feel might be appropriate, or if you like this kind of stuff, and I'll attempt to do more.